So I am here today to share with you some experience that I have on the real-world enterprise application. And I'm going to point out some strategies that we take on the system architecture to move forward these kind of applications. I'm Alberto Salazar. I am being involved in this Java world more than 22 years now. I started young working on JEE EE, so I moved forward a lot of applications, and I mainly work in the banking industry. I mainly been working in the Pacific side of the Latin America, in almost all countries, from US to Chile. And what I have for you today is some practice that we bring to the applications to try to split it and move the code, the specifications, move forward the enterprise environment. So what we realize, or what is the reality of an enterprise application, is that we start with some code, we start with few teams, and year by year, what is happening with this base of code or these applications is that they start to grow. We have more people working on the code, we have more people working on the application, we have more teams, we start to scale the application, we start to create a big monolith or now a huge environment of several microservices. And we end with a really huge base of code. We end with a huge base of code that is really hard to handle. It's not easy. How these applications is looking is that we end with an enterprise application that have a huge environment. It's not just a layered application. We end with several enterprise ER files that is deploying an application server. When we work in banks, almost all of them has a message broker. A lot of them continue working on the mainframe. In the back, we have COBOL behind, we have RPG, we have BASIC, and we have to handle a really huge complexity on top of these systems and with the new systems that we are handling. So the reality is that these applications are complex, are not easy to handle. These base of code are really tight sometimes. Sometimes they're really huge ER files that have a lot of lines of code, that have a lot of people working on it, and they have pipelines or releases that take months, years to move forward. So we are talking about a complex environment. We are talking about an application that have millions of lines of code, that inside of these applications have hundreds of projects behind, have hundreds of lines of code behind. And the answer is not to move to another kind of architecture. Maybe we start to split some of our code, but it's really hard to move forward this monster, even to the cloud, or move forward in the language, move forward in the enterprise environment that we are moving forward. So the answer is not that we are going to handle this hard situation of this mess of code moving forward to the cloud, or to Kubernetes, of if we change the architecture to microservices, or even driving architecture of serverless. The answer is not there. The answer is that we need to take care of this monster and try to move forward the code that we used to have. But the good thing about this monster is that when I embrace banks in this opportunity to work together to move their systems, their core banking systems, or their digital transformation projects, is that what they have in all these years is a valuable asset. Is a code, is an application that is in all these years, in all these decades, give us business value. So we must embrace this code, take care of this code, and move it, or move the application and the architecture forward. And mostly of this code is continue working because of the standards and the implementations of the over the platform, J2E platform, JEE platform, and now that we move forward to Jakarta EE. And these kind of applications are not easy to move to cloud. It's a complex environment that takes some myths behind. So let's take out some of these myths. What I realized a lot of times is that I arrive and they say, Java is dead. Your JEE application server is dead. The end of life of the application is going to dead in 2020, 2030. And what we have to handle in this situation is to explain and move forward that Java now is stronger than before. We are now having several companies behind. So we explain to all the stakeholders of these kind of projects that we are stronger now. And in the Java enterprise world, we continue working on it. We take a break, but a lot of these applications continue working since almost 2000, and we take a break to move to the Eclipse Foundation. We now are behind this specification, or the foundation of this specification. The name is Jakarta EE, and we continue working on it in the community, the companies behind application servers, the companies that use this environment. That is not just the application server. If you are using Spring Boot, how many of you are using Spring Boot? A lot. How many are using Quarkus? A little bit. And how many of you continue working on some of the application servers, like WebLogic, JBoss, Wi-Fi? A little bit. I know a lot of you. This ecosystem is continue working in the same foundation. It's not that we are not using Jakarta EE. We are using it. Inside these frameworks, these libraries, if they not take the world specifications, but they take a few of them. So if we are working, for example, now in Spring, and in Spring Framework 6, that we are now building new application in Spring Boot 3, we are working on the Jakarta project. I take just one example of the persisting layer, but we are using it. So we are moving forward our applications, so we must continue taking care of this huge monster. And another myth is that the application server is low. No, if you take now Wi-Fi, that is the foundation of JBoss, if you take now Open Liberty, that is now the foundation of Westfield Liberty, the size of the application with the application server and your code, sometimes it's just megabytes behind in the size for a container. And if you start up an application server or a Spring Boot application, we have almost the same time on a startup application. So everything is moving forward, and we continue embrace that the Java enterprise world behind these Jakarta EE projects is continue to the future. And it gives us standards and it gives us time to move forward and continue working with these complex environments. And what I realized also, one of the myths that I broke when I arrived these consultancies is that they think that the application server is going to die with this end of life of support of some of them. I take just one example. I work with several application servers. They work with JBoss, WebLogic, WebSphere. I used to work with WebLogic, Sang. So what they embrace is that they think that everything is going to die when the year of the end of life of extended support is going to end. So we must handle all of these situations, all of these myths, explain that our code is going to continue working, that there are a lot of vendors in the ecosystem that now have a lot of choices, and we can move forward even to the cloud in different ways, or in the cloud that we want, because we can work on the same base of code. And how we can move forward, how we can handle this labyrinth of madness of code, and how we apply some practices that bring us to the future. In this enterprise application that is complex, that we have several ER files, several jar files, several modules. Maybe some of us start to work on microservices and the environment is complex. What we start to do is we apply two practice on this code. Some of this code is based on several modules as a jar files that is inside of an ER file. Some of them has several ER files, several of these modules that connect together. And we have a lot of work on the persisting layer based on the data source of the application server that give us this magic on the databases that we handle on the enterprise world, that is the two-phase commit. That is the magic that with something fails, everything is rolled back, or this is the hardest part when you start to split applications and go to the distributed world. Some of them also have just one big monolith. What I show you in the picture and with a lot of blue lines is a core banking system that started 20 years ago and start to grow and grow and grow. And when we arrive to these consultancy in the bank, they have 30 minutes downtime when they update the ER file. So what we explain them is that we need to move forward this code. We need to try to grow this code. We need to take care of the business of the code, but with facades and something like practice of solid, clean code, we start to split it in two ways. The first one is to start to move forward or move out of these ER files, just the business logic. So we start to take this amount of code, take the routines, take the functions, take the methods that we have inside, and start to create in the same application server, in the same virtual machine that is working, we start to create small jar files and small modules. So in the first step, we start to split this huge amount of code. Then we try to put a really huge wall from the back end to the front end. A lot of this application is based also in the front end in Java Server phases. The first one that started maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And these facades, what we took is to try to split. Even this kind of code is based in one framework or features that bring Red Hat, that it was called JEE. And this is a really tight front end and to the back end, because we have annotations that the enterprise Java beans taken to be together. And we put this code with a facade. So what we are going to involve, we're going to wrap, is the logic, is the enterprise Java beans with a facade in front. And what we call business is this facade that is in front of our business code and split it in an interface. An interface that is going to be in a jar or in a module that is going to be in the front end and in the back end. Now, we are working just in Java in this time. And with this, what we put in the middle, we brought this. We brought these two walls. Even that I have a front end working on Java, I split it, putting a big wall with a broker. Now we have in cloud a lot of even streamers that came prepared to work with a lot of messaging. So in the middle, if I put this wall, I can start to produce and consume the same business logic. I don't touch now the business logic. The application is continuing to work, is going to serve what the business needs. But with this, what I have is a time I gain time with the stakeholders, with my code, to start to split it, to start to have small modules. In the front, I don't touch it. It's continue to be the same huge applications that maybe is based in Java server faces. I embrace applications that is continue working in GSPs or in servlets plus struts, that it was a framework in the early 2000s. And we take care in the business logic to try to have a smaller and a better handle of this asset that is the code that we want to bring forward. The easiest part is to move forward the code, because when I start to split it and have different kind of modules that works in different application servers, or now in the modern world is a fat jar or an open jar, I have the magic to continue gaining time and have a smaller base of code in my repositories. So then I don't spend a lot of time in the releases. I don't spend a lot of amount of time working with big, with old knowledge, because you start to split the asset in several people, in several teams. And in the beginning of the new era, like almost everybody is working on Spring Boot, the new modules, I start to work with a new kind of specifications, new kind of the new kind of create enterprise projects that is split in Uber jars, in fat jars, and these give me the time that also start to interact with maybe a Kubernetes environment, with containers, and we continue working in an evolutionary architecture that we move forward. The other approach that we have is to take out this message broker, take out the producer and the consumer, and then we go forward to put a wrapper or a facade of REST APIs. So I will hit all the same logic with REST APIs. I consume REST. So I will work on a REST client on the front. I don't touch the front, but I have the time now to work just in the same kind of application. I win another kind of approach. Now I have several APIs that can be reused, not just behind the queue. I have now several modules that is going to bring me the catalog of my business APIs, my business banking APIs, and try to reuse them on the open banking projects that now we are embrace this wave. And I add to each module a REST API. What we realize that the easiest part is the code. The easiest part is to change the imports, is to change the dependencies on the Maven. Is easy to change the Gradle dependencies, but what is hard is to realize the whole situation in the project. Take the whole picture of the architecture or the enterprise architecture of our applications. So I end working maybe with a Spring, maybe I work with Quarkus, with Vertex, or I also can continue working on the Jakarta EE with, we have now microprofile, we have Jakarta EE implementation of the platform with Wi-Fi, with Open Liberty, with Payara. It doesn't matter now in which of the runtime or the runtime Java Enterprise runtime I'm working on. It doesn't matter, because what I continue having is the same logic in Java. This is the magic of the specification or the foundation of the specification. So when I move forward, I handle a new kind of architecture, cleaner, smaller modules. I am put an API gateway in top of the wall APIs. I can take care now to create new modules on whatever JavaScript framework that we want, whatever kind of framework that we work on the mobile applications. And this gives me a lot of time to evolve my code, to take the responsibility to the communication with all the teams, with all our code, to move forward. But this is not all. One thing is the code, one thing is the architecture, the tools, but what we embrace in this kind of projects is also that we have a communications issues, the culture, the people that are behind these applications are different. When we work with these kind of projects, or we embrace these kind of situations, we have several different kind of actors on the banking industry, on the enterprise, and we must handle each perspective from a different kind of way. And these kind of projects to move forward the enterprise application is a situation that I must understand all the actors. First, the stakeholders is going to put the money that I'm going to move, or move the budget to the cloud, move the budget to buy a new platform like Kubernetes with as an OpenShift, or I need to embrace to have now more teams to work now in JavaScript in the front end and in the back end in Java. So I need to bring this whole picture to the stakeholders that are going to put the money in these projects. And the other perspective is that none of us want to take care of this old code. As a developer that I continue being, and the teams that I handle, all these people that start to work in this huge amount of code that had more than 20 years now in the market, and they continue maintaining this code. Some of them don't want to continue be there. The new people don't want to be there. But we need to embrace communication and change of culture that they understand that this code is valuable to all of us. And the easiest part on this perspective is now that we have a lot of tools now. We have everything to play and move forward this code. We are in the era of a lot of enablers. We have a lot of frameworks, options. So in this perspective of projects, this is the easier part. But that you get the money to embrace this moving forward of the enterprise application is the hardest part. And the methodology in the real world experience doesn't help you. We continue trying to embrace the agile world. We now have more roles in the agile teams, but the communication is continue broke. So we must embrace that the people that are working with us on this kind of moving forward enterprise application must understand the situation that the asset of the code is what is more valuable, and that we don't need sometimes enablers, we don't need sometimes the Scrum Master that is going to have a breach in the communication. What we have to take care is that we own the code, we own the applications, give the responsibility to the leads that know that code, and help them to understand that they must move forward, because the industry that we are working on, or the code that we are working on, is that give us business value. So the agile madness is not going to help us if we don't take care of this situation. And what I embraced in the last 5-10 years now in this kind of project is that all the young people don't want to work in Java, COBOL. They think that we are dinosaurs. They also have now different kind of attention time for the meetings. It's really hard now to work with young people. And we must try to understand them and try to change how we are going to embrace the project so we can give them a good onboarding. Onboarding courses of our base of code. So what they like a lot that I see is that they want that somebody is guiding you. In the old times, we used to work almost without guidance. When I went to my first job, it was not the internet, the source of truth. It was a book. So when he came, my senior person of my lead, he gave me a book and said, AGB 2.1, please read this book and you will understand the code. This is how we grow, and the people that have this enterprise application and base of code, we think that this is the world. But now these new generations of people think a lot of care. It's another world. They need more following people on their tasks. So in this madness of an enterprise application, an enterprise moving forward, the easiest part is the code. The easiest part is the frameworks, is the dependencies. And the hard part is the people. It's the process that when you embrace, or we in the real world situations embrace these kind of projects, we try to handle from top to down, try to convince the stakeholder and then move forward, the world culture and the world code. So, we give you some answers or not? What we embrace? This kind of madness of code, a lot of code, we can move forward. Move forward, but moving us out of the comfort zone. Because if we continue thinking that this code is going to work on the application server because it's stable, and we don't want to touch the code because we are afraid that everything is going to broke, we are never going to move forward. And this is happening a lot in the bank industry. They are afraid to touch some code. But if we do some of this practice, if we embrace the whole actors in the project, we can move forward with care, because we can make a huge big bank. These two perspectives that I put you in the modular split of the code is what give us the advantage to move forward. And one other thing that I understand in this kind of projects is that sometimes a lot of people are accustomed to do the same and the same and the same things over and over. And when somebody arrives, they think that the consultant doesn't understand the situation, the people that they bring to the company doesn't understand what they need, and this new generation of people is also doesn't care what we do. They move out of the company every 3 months or 6 months. So we must embrace the persons that handle this kind of code, this kind of applications, to listen everybody. And the foundations take time to know the patterns, the practice, the solid principles. You apply this from top to down to the code, to the module, and everything is going to look better and better. And if you embrace your team with this practice, that is really simple practice, everything is going to work. And also what is really important is to give tools of clean code, take care of the people that need to move forward this code. I handle situations that I see classes or Java files with more than 10,000 lines of code. It's really unhandled. But if you start to read, follow, debug the application, you start to split it in smaller functions, handle the error handling that some of this old code doesn't have. And this is going to help us with these young people that we bring to the company with a good onboarding of these practices. So in the end, in several kind of projects, I end with, in the top, with a Kubernetes environment, maybe in the cloud, with several modules in the cloud. We end with maybe some of the backend in on-premise or in an on-premise environment in the data center of the bank. And like we move some of the business with the streams, with queues. I have a broker. And some of the products that the bank has as a monolith, we leave it there. Let's in the right is a BPM server. And we embrace a lot of this situation with single sign-on and with OAuth2 now the standard. So we put inside our environment the standard security, all of our APIs. We work a lot on the team, the culture, the rules that they must have from the first day of work. And in this situation is how we move forward. It's how we now are working on this digital transformation in banking industry. We embrace this base of code. We tried and failed every time. And understand that I must do it this back and forward of failure modules, failure projects, that in some times we are going to have a good base of code, take care of our code, take care of our enterprise applications while we build several years in this industry. And as I summarize, all of us that are working even in Spring Boot, Quarkus, we are using Jakarta EE. So we need that this standardization, this specification continue moving forward. We have now a conference in October that is the Jakarta EE1 in Spanish that I organize. It's online. You can participate. You can work on the mailing list of the Jakarta EE projects. Give us feedback. Give feedback to the people that work on this foundation of the specification. This legacy code is valuable. The first thing that I embrace in this kind of project is give the stakeholders the recommendations that we must not rewrite from the scratch all the code. This is the most failure projects in this kind of work, and they think that if we move to other language or to other framework is going to help us. The whatever methodology is not the answer. The answer is inside of us. We need to embrace this code. We need to embrace our team and work together with good communication. Now we have a lot of tools. A lot of tools that is going to help us to move everywhere, to fail faster and have environments and stages that we can test and work in our base of code. And to the new people and these new generations, we need to give them a good onboard time. We need to help them. We need to be near them. We need to take care of them. If we don't do that, we are not going to have new teams in this old base of code. And honestly, we continue try and fail. We don't have a fixed recipe for this, but what I bring you is what give us a successful and real world projects on moving forward huge enterprise Java applications. So I invite you to always think different, try new things, and we are going to move this world. Thank you to be here. I know that you have a lot of options. I hope that you bring something to home or to your company from this experience. And if you have any questions, I'm here for you for a few minutes more. And if you want the slides, you can also follow me on Twitter that I'm going to publish it in minutes there. Some of you have questions?
First question of the day.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. So I have a question about the methodology. Basically, you say that Agile is not solving your problems, it doesn't work. But there needs to be some kind of methodology. When you have multiple teams, when you need to fail fast, what does work for you?
Just communication. What I embrace these years. When I earlier start in working in banking in early 2000s, we have small teams. And we used to handle even the deploy of the applications from the code to the production environment in this type. The industry is bringing us that now we have thousands of people. I've been in a project that just the bank has 5,000 people split around the world working on projects. When I said that the methodology is not just a lie, I don't hate Agile. I just said that any methodology is not the answer. The answer is that the team embrace the code, embrace the communication. What they give you, the methodology, is a framework, a rules that if you follow, is going to help you, sometimes no. And in this time, in Agile madness that I said, they have too much ceremonies. Sometimes they have more ceremonies than time to code and move forward the code or move forward the projects. So the recipe is not there, but when you embrace these situations, you must be really conscious that you take care of the good things of the methodology, maybe Kanban, Scrum, squads. It depends on the company, but the methodology is not going to solve any problem of move forward enterprise applications. There you go. Someone else?
Any other questions? Come on, we can do it. I know it's early in the morning, but...
And like we are a few of us, you can pass for a chocolate here and take it when you go out. I will put it in the table, I think so.